So, in rereading the Dungeon Master's Guide, I noticed something about the world creation section. In the core assumptions section, the very first assumption in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is that gods oversee the world. To quote directly, the gods are real. While some folk might refuse to honor the gods, none can deny their existence. And there's no denying that religion, and by extension deities, are an important part of 5th edition. To quote from the Player's Handbook, it's hard to be ambivalent about the deities and deny their existence. At a minimum, 2 of the main classes, Clerics and Paladins, traditionally draw their strength from some connection to the divine. That doesn't seem to be going away with 1 D&D's use of divine spells for those 2 classes, but though the gods may be a core assumption of D&D 5e, can a campaign setting exist without them? After all, the core assumptions are merely default assumptions and can be changed. So for a system that spends twice as long explaining how to use gods as it does explaining roleplay and social interaction, can we fulfill every murder hobo's dream? Can we kill off the gods? So let's cut to the chase here. The reason that gods are a core assumption in D&D 5e is that narratively, spells, classes, and backgrounds all draw inspiration from the divine. The mechanics of these gameplay aspects are in some way driven by the expansive lore that surrounds them. The existence of gods and the source of divine power make these mechanics unique in terms of flavor, but if you've watched this channel before, you know that mechanics are a means to an end and that I'm in favor of changing things up to favor flavor over established lore. So I guess the question bears asking, is the lore or mechanics established in such a way that a D&D setting without the gods can still make sense? Because spells and backgrounds are more easily flavored, let's talk about the 2 divine classes, Paladins and Clerics. If classes are distinguished in lore based on where they draw their power from, are these classes unplayable in a world without gods? It may surprise you to learn that despite the traditional narrative surrounding these classes, their relationship to gods of the multiverse isn't as rules as written as you may think. Put simply, these classes are divine, but not tied to deities. Let's first look at Paladins, the easier of the 2 to sort out. The Player's Handbook explicitly states that Paladins gain their power from the conviction of the oath that they swear. While that oath may be to a god, a Paladin's power comes as much from a commitment to justice itself as it does from a god. The creation suggestions for Paladins state that your oath is the most important aspect of a Paladin. The ideals displayed in the subclass options for Paladin are ones that can easily exist in any setting. Tapping into the weave of magic through your sheer commitment to, say, redemption is a power that doesn't require a god to facilitate. So no, a god is not necessary for Paladins to function, but let's turn to Clerics. And, well, not so fast though, okay? Because to be really technical here with what D&D has given us, I want to focus on this language here. Specifically this, the ability to cast cleric spells relies on devotion. And of course, the implication here is devotion to a god, but I don't think that's necessarily true. Take a look at what can be found in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Clerics choose domains, not deities. Just as a paladin derives her power from an oath, your power as a cleric draws from your devotion to a divine domain. The concept of what is divine in your world need not be a god or a pantheon. In Xanathar's Guide, Wizards explicitly states that a cleric might choose to serve a cosmic force, a philosophy, a concept, or even one of the 9 alignments. In a godless world, a cleric's devotion to life or death, love or peace may be sufficient to grant you power. Todd Kenreck and Jim Davis discuss this very thing in an episode of Todd Talks, which I will link below. In it, Todd suggests that perhaps Victor Frankenstein's devotion, his obsession with death, could make him a death domain cleric. So while these classes may be traditionally tied to deities, I don't think that they can only exist in a world with gods, at least as far as the rules are concerned. As lore is concerned though, what does a D&D world without gods look like? And, as D&D settings go, the answer is not pretty. I live in a world of fire and sand. The crimson sun scorches the life from anything that crawls or flies, and storms of sand scourge the foliage from the barren ground. It is a brutal and savage land beset by political strife and monstrous abominations, where life is grim and short. This is our introduction to the world of Athas, the campaign setting for Dark Sun, originally released in 2nd and again in 4th edition. You see, Dark Sun is a brutal Mad Max fantasy setting full of blood and sand, slaves and warlords. And in this world, one of the main characteristics is that the gods are silent, a world without deities. The 4th edition setting says that there are no clerics, no paladins, and no prophets or religious orders. Even so, the rules do provide for the use of divine characters, suggesting that perhaps their power is drawn from a relic, a bloodline, or a pact. 2nd edition, though, wasn't so quick to attribute divinity only to gods. In the world of Athas, the priest classes drew power from the elemental planes, or from the sphere of the cosmos known as the Grey, the space between planes where the gods were thought to have escaped to. Primal guardians, much like paladins, derived power from an oath to protect the unspoiled vestiges of life on Athas. Templars were granted power in return for their worship of the powerful sorcerer kings, malevolent rulers who often likened themselves to gods. And clerics, yes, clerics drew power from elemental worship, venerating the nameless, formless principles of all living elements together. I guess my point is that even in this world bereft of gods, there is still room for divine magic. Magic brought about through devotion or through oath. Sure, traditional spells and backgrounds may have to undergo some form of flavor change, but a D&D world without gods is possible, even if the existence of gods is a core assumption of the game. In conclusion, I appreciate the world-building advice from the DMG. Ask yourself, what if the standard assumptions weren't true in my world? What can we get when we challenge a core assumption of the game we play? With a little creativity and a change in perspective, what worlds can we create? Thank you for listening. I'll see you all next time.